So picture this. You're in the desolate post-apocalyptic world of Fallout 3, and you've got this one player who's built a warlord so absolutely epic, he actually needs a ghostwriter. But here's the twist. His collaborator? Not human. Today, we're going to dive into how generative AI is helping co-author a totally new kind of video game saga, and it's all happening in real time.
Okay, so that right there, that's the voice of our protagonist, a guy named Arren Sawyer. But here's the thing, you won't find that line anywhere in the actual game. Nope. It's the beginning of a story that's not being driven by the game's designers, but by the player's own ambition and, well, a very, very unusual creative partner.
All right, so let's get into it. Who is this Arren Sawyer? Well, he's definitely not your typical lone wanderer. No, he leads this hand-picked squad of survivors, and they're basically the instruments of his will. They're a true force to be reckoned with in the capital wasteland.
You know, every single member of this crew has a specific job. You've got Shorty, who's the expert in close quarters combat. Then there's Red, the sniper, and believe it or not, the negotiator. Sticky is the one laying down all that suppressive fire with his minigun, Eugene. Jericho, he's the versatile powerhouse. And of course, there's the loyal Dogmeat, acting as the tank, just soaking up enemy fire. So yeah, this is not some random group of survivors. It is a carefully assembled machine built for one single thing: total dominance.
And that quote, it just captures their whole mission perfectly, right? This player isn't trying to save the wasteland. Oh no, they're trying to conquer it. The story that's being built here is all about ruthless efficiency. It's about an unstoppable force just carving its own path right through all the chaos. But here's the thing that's probably bugging you. Characters in Fallout 3, they just don't talk like that. The game's narration is never this, literary or self-aware. This whole epic first-person saga, it just feels different. So you gotta ask, where is all this coming from?
Well, it's time to pull back the curtain. Let's dig into the really unique, creative process behind this whole narrative. It's time to meet the ghostwriter, the ghost in the machine.
Okay, check this out, because this slide illustrates the two voices perfectly. On the left, you've got the player's actual commentary while he's playing. It's casual, it's focused on game mechanics, right? Let me check my mini-map. But then, on the right, you get the narrative voice of Arren Sawyer. It's grand, it's poetic, it's totally thematic. So you see, one voice is just describing the action, but the other is building the legend. So the secret ingredient here, it's a generative AI. The player isn't just playing Fallout 3. Think of it more like he's directing a story. After he does something in the game, he types a prompt to an AI, and that AI interprets his actions and just weaves them into this rich first-person monologue, all from his character's point of view. And the process itself is actually a really simple but super powerful feedback loop. So step 1, the player does stuff in the game. Step 2, they give the AI a direct prompt, like, describe my playstyle. And then step 3, the AI takes that prompt, looks at everything that's happened so far, and bam, it generates the next chapter of the saga. It's like the player is the actor and the director, while the AI is the screenwriter and the narrator. Pretty wild, right? Now, what's really incredible is how this whole collaboration goes way beyond just describing actions. Together, the player and the AI have cooked up this deep philosophical framework, basically to justify why this character is, and I'm quoting the player here, very, very evil. And the foundation for this whole philosophy? It comes from a source you would absolutely never expect: John Milton's 17th century epic poem, Paradise Lost. Yeah, you heard that right. The AI, when it was prompted, drew this direct and frankly startling line from this classic piece of literature straight to the post-apocalyptic world of Fallout. Honestly, the AI's creative leap here is just astonishing. It connects the game's lore to these massive literary themes. It frames the nuclear Great War as humanity's version of being kicked out of Eden. And it compares the Wasteland's power-hungry factions to Satan's rebellion in heaven. Think about that. By doing this, it's giving the player this powerful literary reason for all their characters' dark choices. And look, these dark choices aren't just some abstract philosophy. No, they are backed up by some seriously brutal in-game action. At this point in the playthrough, Arren Sawyer has personally killed 266 people. This isn't just talk. We're talking about a verifiable trail of bodies here. And the character's actions, they totally align with this villainous persona. Look at his resume. He blew up the major settlement of Megaton. He cleared out the entire peaceful community of the Oasis. He loots bodies indiscriminately, doesn't care about karma laws. And his own companions just reinforce this worldview, saying things like, better them than us. So you see, the AI is narrating a story that the player is actively writing with his actions in the game.
But it doesn't even stop there. This player-AI team-up is still evolving. It's moving beyond just telling a story and into something way more ambitious. They're trying to fundamentally alter and build upon the game world itself in a way the developers definitely never intended. So the project took another turn. The player gave the AI a brand new persona, Master Pug 53. And acting as this character, the AI actually generated a complete guide on how to build a brand new settlement from scratch, using the game's own mechanics in a way that is just completely new. And the key to this whole insane plan is this really strange and unreliable in-game weapon called the Mesmetron. Its effect is totally random. It might pacify someone, or it could send them into a violent frenzy. And it's that frenzy effect that the AI brilliantly decided to exploit. The cleverness of this plan is just remarkable. So as this Master Pug 53 character, the AI came up with this whole process. First, find a random person out in the wasteland. Second, shoot him with the Mesmetron and just hope you get that frenzy result. Why? Because when the character is frenzied, they'll attack the player on sight. And that means you can carefully kite them, basically lead them all the way across the map to your new settlement location. It's an incredible hack of the game's own systems to create something the game never thought was possible.
Okay, so when you zoom out and look at the big picture, this whole experiment becomes way more than just a creative way to play an old game. It really offers a fascinating glimpse into what the future of interactive entertainment and storytelling itself could look like.
So why does any of this matter? Well, because it's a total paradigm shift. This isn't some pre-written mod you download, and it's not just a player making up a cool backstory in their head. This is a dynamic, real-time collaboration between a human director and an AI narrator. And together, they're creating a story that's truly emergent. It's unique to their specific play session.
So what does this all really represent? I think it signals a shift where the player becomes less of a player and more of a director, a curator. And the AI, it becomes this dynamic, real-time narrator and even a world builder. This partnership is so powerful because it just completely blurs the line between playing a story and writing one. And that opens the door for these deeply personalized game narratives that can evolve in ways we can't even predict. And all this leaves us with a final, really fascinating question to think about. We've just seen a single player and an AI co-author an entire epic saga from scratch. Now, if this is possible today, with tools that are available to pretty much anyone, what happens when this kind of technology is built directly into our games from the start? When players and AI become true creative partners, what does that look like? The next evolution of storytelling, it might not even look like a game at all. Picture this, the ruins of Washington, D.C. It's a world filled with mutants, radiation, and a desperate fight for survival. For most players, that's the whole game. But for one player, the goal was, well, a little different. He wanted to be a poet. He didn't just want to play Fallout 3. He wanted to write his own epic, turning this desolate wasteland into his personal stage. So, how exactly did he pull this off? Let's dive in. So, here's what we're going to unpack. We'll start with a seemingly simple quest that, believe it or not, leads to a very, very old book. Then, we're going to hunt for the ghost in the machine that's telling this story, meet the wasteland tyrant at the heart of it all, and finally, ask what this whole grand experiment really means for the future of stories. All right, so our story begins with a character named Arren Sawyer. He's leading this heavily armed squad through the shattered remains of the capital wasteland. And on the surface, their objective seems pretty straightforward. But what they don't know is that this is just the first verse of a much larger and much darker poem. And you gotta understand, the world itself is basically a character in this story. It's described as a desolate and haunting landscape. Every step is a struggle. This grim backdrop, it's not just for show, it's the perfect stage for an epic tale to unfold. So, this is the mission that kicks the whole thing off. It's not about finding some super weapon or saving a town from raiders. Sawyer's goal is to find a book. A specific 400-year-old book of poetry hidden away deep beneath the National Mall. Now, that begs the question, in a world defined by pure survival, why on earth would anyone want a poem?
So yeah, why this book? Of all the things that could have survived the apocalypse, why is John Milton's Paradise Lost so critical to this whole thing? Well, the answer is actually pretty brilliant. It's all about the striking parallels between the poem's ancient themes and the brutal reality of the wasteland. I mean, think about it. It's all right there. Paradise Lost is about a fall from grace, the temptation of power, the huge war between good and evil. And what is Fallout 3 about? The exact same things. The Great War was humanity's fall from Eden. The player is constantly tempted by power, and every other quest forces you to make a tough moral choice. So this book, it's not just some random collectible, it's the thematic blueprint for the entire story. But, as Sawyer's quest goes on, something kind of weird starts happening. We begin to hear this incredibly stylized narration that's describing his journey. It's poetic, it's personal, and it definitely does not sound like it's part of the original game. Just listen to this. The narration takes simple gameplay and frames it with the grandeur of an epic poem. It talks about formidable squads and resilience. This isn't just a game log, it's a saga being written in real time. So the big question is, whose voice is this? Right. Who is this eloquent, dramatic narrator? It's not a character we meet, and it's certainly not the game's default announcer. It feels like there's a ghost in the machine. So what or who is it? We'll get this. The narrator is the player himself. He's using an AI copilot, an entity he calls Charlie, to act as his personal bard. He's literally transforming his own gameplay into a literary epic, moment by moment. And here's how this creative loop actually works. The player does something in the game, wins a firefight, discovers a new location, and then he just types a prompt to his AI, Charlie. And instantly, Charlie composes a monologue, framing that simple action as this monumental event in the epic of Arren Sawyer. Okay, so now we know how this story is being written. Let's talk about what kind of story it is. Because let me tell you, Arren Sawyer is no hero. Not even close. He's using this epic generating AI to chronicle his rise as a completely ruthless wasteland tyrant. This line, which was generated by the AI from Sawyer's perspective, just perfectly captures his whole philosophy. And this is so much deeper than just, clicking the evil dialogue option in the game. The player is actively building a villainous persona from the ground up and giving it this poetic, self-aware voice. And these are not empty words, not at all. Sawyer's actions in the game are genuinely villainous. He's wiped entire towns off the map. He's racked up a body count of 266 people. He consistently makes the most ruthless choices possible, all while his squad is literally cheering him on, saying, "Better them than us." He is living the part that he's writing. And of course, every tyrant needs their enforcers. Meet the crew. This is not a band of heroes. It's a finely tuned instrument of destruction. Each member is a specialist in their field, and the AI often composes verses that celebrate their brutal, brutal efficiency. Look, this isn't just random mayhem for the sake of it. It's all driven by a singular, crystal-clear ambition, articulated perfectly by his AI companion. The goal is total domination. Every action, every monologue, it all serves to build the legend of Arren Sawyer, the iron-fisted ruler of the wasteland. Okay, so what we're looking at here is way more than just a cool way to play a video game. It's really a glimpse into something new. You could call it a modern campfire story, where the technology changes, but that human need to tell our own tales, that stays the same. Here's the fundamental shift, the big idea. The player has completely elevated his role. He's not just a character consuming a story someone else wrote. He's essentially hijacking the developer's world and using a new tool, generative AI, to become a modern bard, singing the saga of his own deeds. Think about that for a second. Millions of people play inside this exact same virtual world. They see the same quests, the same locations, but through this process, this one player has created a story that is completely and utterly his. It's an epic of one, forged in a world of millions. And this is it, the climactic line, delivered by the AI. This is the final declaration. The character is no longer just a player avatar. In his own mind and in the text of his own self-made epic, he has become the fully realized architect of his very own legend. And that leaves us with a really fascinating final question. I mean, this player used a pretty simple AI to write his own myth. As these tools become infinitely more powerful and more integrated into our lives, is this kind of personal epic going to become commonplace? will we all become the heroes and, yeah, the villains of our own perfectly crafted stories.
So, what happens when a video game player teams up with an AI to write a story in real time? Well, we're about to dive into that. This is a really fascinating experiment where a Fallout 3 player used an AI as a kind of co-pilot to craft the inner monologue of a genuinely ruthless villain. And let me tell you, the results are pretty chilling. Just listen to this line, generated by the AI. I mean, wow. That is the perfect mission statement for this character, right? It just sets this incredibly dark, ambitious tone. We're talking about a wasteland conqueror here, a persona built not just by what the player does, but given a voice by an AI. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the player's dark persona. Then, we'll follow the journey through the wasteland, meet this AI co-author, and see how they built this ruthless philosophy together. After that, we'll check out the tools of power he used. And finally, we'll talk about what all this might mean for the future of storytelling. Okay, first up, a player's dark persona. Let's meet the minds behind this monster. You've got the player, Dylan Thompson, on one side, and on the other, his in-game creation, the formidable Arren Sawyer. But you gotta understand, this was never gonna be just a casual playthrough. Not at all. You see, Thompson's goal was super clear from the get-go. He wanted to role-play a character who was just unapologetically evil. Every single choice, every action he took in the game was filtered through this lens of pure self-interest and this, hunger for power. And this was a serious creative project right from the beginning. And this quote, it just perfectly illustrates the result. This came from the AI right after the player blew up an entire town in the game. It gives a voice, a really chilling voice, to what's happening on screen. It's not just an evil deed anymore, you know? It's a full-on statement of character. Okay, so let's get into the wasteland journey itself and see how this all builds. You have to realize, Arren Sawyer isn't some lone wolf wandering around. No, he's a leader. He is actively building a force to take over and dominate the capital wasteland. And hey, no tyrant gets to the top alone, right? His squad is this hand-picked collection of wasteland specialists. You've got Shorty for your close-range firepower, Red's on sniping and medic duty, Jericho's the jack-of-all-trades, and of course, you've got the loyal-as-ever tank, Dogmeat. This is not a group of buddies. It's a toolbox, and it's built for conquest. Okay, now we get to the most unique part of this whole thing, the AI co-author. It's time to meet Charlie. That's the name the player gave the AI that basically became Arren Sawyer's inner voice and his personal historian. Now this is where it gets really fun. Check out the contrast here. On the left, you see the player's prompts. They're casual, sometimes just total nonsense like Murgly Burgulus. And then on the right, the AI, Charlie, takes that gobbledygook and spins it into this epic first-person monologue from a wasteland tyrant. It's just a fascinating creative partnership. So this whole process turned into this constant creative loop. It's pretty simple, really. The player does something in the game. Let's say he clears out a rival camp. Then he sends a prompt to the AI. Charlie then generates this amazing monologue reflecting on that action from Sawyer's point of view. And then the player reads it out loud, which just solidifies the whole narrative in real time. It's brilliant. So now we see how they forged this ruthless philosophy, and this is where the collaboration gets really powerful. The AI wasn't just spitting out cool-sounding lines. It was building a consistent, ruthless philosophy that was immediately backed up by what the player was actually doing in the game. I mean, just listen to the ambition in this. This isn't just about surviving or grabbing some extra loot. No way. The AI has crafted this grand vision for the character to become the architect of a new, pretty brutal world order. This takes it way beyond simple gameplay. This is a story of conquest. And this philosophy, well, it has a body count. 266 people killed. That number right there, that's the hard, quantifiable proof of just how ruthless this character is. It's one thing for the AI to say he's decisive, right? It's something else entirely to see the actual cost. And that is the most crucial point here, this perfect alignment of words and deeds. Blowing up towns, looting bodies, these aren't just random acts of violence for the heck of it. Nope. They are the physical proof, the manifestation of the philosophy his AI co-author is writing for him moment by moment. Okay, let's look at the tools of power he's using. To see how this philosophy is put into practice, we need to look at a very specific in-game tool. To build his empire, Sawyer needs people, and he uses a very, very strange weapon to get them.
And here it is, the Mesmetron. This thing is not your typical gun. It is a device of control, and its results are completely unpredictable. It can stun someone, make them fly into a homicidal rage, or, well, let's just say the third option is pretty messy. It's basically the perfect tool for a chaotic tyrant.
And this is where the strategy gets brilliant in a really twisted way. Sawyer uses the Mesmetron to frenzy some random person out in the wasteland. Because that person is now hostile, they'll follow him anywhere, trying to attack him. So he just patiently leads them, sometimes all the way across the map, back to his settlement. He's literally kidnapping people to build his population.
All right, so what does this all add up to? A new kind of story. As we start to wrap this up, it is super clear that this is way more than just a clever way to play a video game. It's really a window into a whole new kind of collaborative art. Think about it like this. The player is providing the action, the improv, the raw material of the story, just by playing the game. But the AI? It's providing the literary voice, the philosophical depth, and the consistency of the story. Together, they are creating something that neither one of them could have possibly made alone.
And this last quote from Charlie just drives the point home, showing how deep this whole collaboration went. A completely fully formed character with a clear and honestly terrifying motivation just emerged from this partnership between a human and a machine. And all of this leaves us with a huge, provocative question about the future of creativity. When a player and an AI create a story together like this, who's the real author? Is it the player, the one performing the actions? Is it the AI, the one giving those actions a voice? Or is the whole idea of a single author maybe becoming a thing of the past?
All right, so let's get right into it. We're not here today to talk about the video game Fallout 3 in the way you might expect. Nope, we're diving into something way, way more interesting. This incredible, sprawling, and honestly often hilarious epic that one player is building for himself inside that game world. So you hear that, right? That's the story he wants to tell. He's even using AI to generate these epic, custom narrations to set the mood. It's all about high drama, a heroic leader, and this grand mission to tame the post-apocalyptic world. It sounds super serious, super epic, but, well, that's the plan anyway. And then there's what actually happens. Because for every single moment of that planned epic heroism, you get a moment of just pure unscripted chaos. And that contrast, right? The gap between this grand story he's imagining and the buggy, unpredictable reality of the game, that's what makes this whole thing just so fascinating.
So, let's be clear, this isn't just some guy messing around in a video game. We're talking about a player, Dylan Thompson, who's become this wasteland storyteller. He's not just playing in the world of Fallout 3, he's using it like a giant canvas to paint a story that is 100% his. And his main character, Arren Sawyer, he's not just some pixelated puppet. Oh no. The player has crafted this whole persona for him. According to his own notes, Sawyer's driven by this intense need for power, this cold, calculated survival instinct, but also a deep quest for redemption. So you see, this isn't about beating the game. It's all about the character's journey. You know what they say, right? A leader's nothing without their crew. And that's totally true for Arren Sawyer. His story is just as much about the very specific, hand-picked team he's put together to follow him into the wastes. And this isn't just a random bunch of NPCs. Nope. Each one is like a hand-picked character in a movie. You've got Shorty, who he calls the shadow of the squad. There's Red, the big, charismatic heavy hitter. Sticky, the powerhouse, who's also kind of got this childlike innocence. And of course, Jericho, the absolute legend. And the best part? He decks them out in specific gear to perfectly fit the roles he's imagined for them. And it's not like he just sets them up and forgets about them. This guy is obsessed with getting his cast just right. He's always tweaking their gear, their guns, even their hats. He has this great name for it, iterative clarity. It's all about this constant little-by-little process of making them fit his story even better. Okay, so you've got the hero, you've got the perfectly curated squad, but where is this all headed? What's the point? Well, it's all building towards a seriously grand plan, an endgame that's way more ambitious than you're probably thinking. The ultimate goal? He wants to build an entire functioning settlement from scratch. But here's the kicker. Fallout 3 doesn't really let you do that. It's not a feature in the game. So this isn't something the game wants him to do. It's a massive challenge he's given himself, and it means he's got to bend and sometimes break the game's rules.
And this is where you see just how much thought he's put into this. He's already picked the perfect spot, a little place called Minefield. And why there? Well, it's out of the way, it's easy to defend, it's got houses already standing, and this is the big one, not a lot of enemies respawn there. It's basically the perfect blank canvas to build his new society. So here's the big question. How do you convince people to move to your brand new town when the game literally has no option for that? Well, you have to get really creative. Which brings us to his pretty unconventional toolkit. The key to this whole insane plan comes down to one weird little weapon, the mesmetron. What it does is kinda hypnotize an NPC. It makes them mad at you and chase you. But, and this is super important, it doesn't make their whole faction hate you. And that little detail, it changes everything. And this is where things get completely ridiculous. The recruitment process is basically this. 1, find a potential citizen. 2, shoot them with the mesmetron to make them really, really mad at you. And 3, lead them on a wild goose chase across the entire freaking map back to your settlement. It's like this bizarre glitch-fueled marathon to recruit every single person. Okay, so we have the plan, but what happens when that grand plan smacks right into the messy, chaotic reality of the game engine? Well, let's look at a perfect example. We'll call it the Mesmetron Gambit. The mission sounds simple enough, but it's super risky. He's got to sneak into Paradise Falls, which is this heavily guarded slaver town, and recruit a slave named Rory McLaren to be one of the first citizens of his new settlement. And right off the bat, there's a problem. A guard named, of all things, 40 is blocking the way, and you can literally hear the player talking to himself, trying to figure out what to do on the fly. The plan is already going off the rails. And somehow, it actually works. He takes out the guard, he gets to Rory, and Rory agrees to follow him. This is it. The first citizen for his new town is on his way. For a second there, it's a huge victory. Yeah. That victory lasts for, maybe 5 seconds? Because in the chaos of trying to escape, Rory, the guy he worked so hard to save, just gets killed almost instantly. And just like that, the plan is in shambles. And then, to add insult to injury, our hero, the great Arren Sawyer, the guy who's supposed to build a new civilization, gets himself hopelessly stuck in a hole. He can't move. You can't make this stuff up. That one moment, it's the perfect summary of this entire project. The epic vision crashing into the hilarious, buggy reality. So what's the takeaway from all this? You've got these huge ambitions, this custom narration, the detailed squad, and of course, the spectacular failures. It all adds up to something so much bigger than just a person playing a game. What we're really seeing here is something called emergent narrative. It's a fancy term for stories that aren't written by the game developers, but that just happen organically because of how a person plays. Think about it. Rory dying, Arren getting stuck in a hole. None of that was scripted. That's the game's systems and its glitches crashing into the player's plan. And those failures, they become a core part of his unique story. And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? This whole epic saga, this storyteller's quest through the wasteland, it all lives in that fascinating gray area between the game's programming and one player's imagination. It really makes you think, where does the game end and where does the player's story truly begin? So, today we're doing something a little different. We're not just going to talk about the plot of a video game. Instead, we're going to explore how a player can actually become a storyteller, the author of their very own epic saga, all inside a game's world. And we're going to use this one really amazing playthrough of Fallout 3 to show you exactly how it works. Now, get this. That line, it isn't actually from the game. Nope. It's from a custom AI storyteller that this player uses to turn his gameplay into this grand, sweeping narrative. It's what sets the whole epic tone for what is a completely unique experience. So here's how we'll break it down. We'll look at how this player creates his Wasteland Wanderer, completely makes up his own personal quests, builds a very specific squad, gives his character a ruthless philosophy, and then how he uses that special AI to turn it all into a story where he, the player, becomes the author. Okay, so first things first. To really get what this project is all about, you have to understand the two very different voices at the heart of it all. You've got the player, and then you've got the persona he's creating. On one side, you have the player, Dylan, and his commentary is super casual, exactly what you'd expect from someone playing a game. He's saying stuff like, "Hey y'all," or "I gotta check my map." But then, on the other side, you have the character he's building, Arren Sawyer, who the AI narrator describes as an indomitable leader and a beacon of hope. It's this huge gap between the casual player and the epic persona that really defines this whole creative experiment. So how does he actually build this character? Well, it all starts by doing something pretty radical. He completely ignores the game's main story. Instead, he starts forging his own personal quests, driven entirely by what his character, Arren, would want. Right, so forget the main plot about finding his dad. Arren Sawyer's missions are all about his squad. He makes it his personal goal to find a specific letter for one of his companions, and then a unique rifle, and even a lucky hat for another. His objectives aren't about saving the world. They're about this personal journey across the map, creating a story that is 100% his own. And Arren Sawyer's story isn't a solo act, not by a long shot. His whole narrative is defined by the very specific, hand-picked team he builds around him. He doesn't treat them like AI helpers. He treats them like they're the main cast in his personal saga. He actually assembles a full squad, and every single member is chosen for a distinct strategic reason. He's got his specialists for close-range combat, sniping, heavy weapons, the whole shebang. And of course, you've got Dogmeat, who's basically the indispensable tank for the whole group. And you can just see the level of detail he put into this. Shorty gets the terrible shotgun for just devastating close-quarters damage. Red is given the reservist's rifle for that long-range precision. And Dogmeat, his job is simple but absolutely crucial. Run in, draw all the enemy fire, and let the rest of the squad do their thing. It's brilliant. So we have the character, the quests, the squad, but what's actually driving this guy? I mean, this is definitely not your typical hero's journey. The player gives Arren Sawyer a very clear and, frankly, a very ruthless philosophy to live by. And there it is. The player, speaking as the character, just lays it out. Arren's goal is power. Simple as that. He wants to rule the wasteland with an iron fist. And this one core motivation, it justifies everything he does, all the morally questionable actions, including, as the player mentions, blowing up the entire town of Megaton without hesitation. This is just a perfect illustration of a core concept in game design, something called player agency. It's basically the freedom a game gives you to make choices that actually matter, choices that change things. And this playthrough, well, it's taking that freedom and pushing it to its absolute maximum, using the game systems not just to play, but to write. Okay, now for the magic ingredient. The one thing that makes this whole project so unique. How does a player just walking around and checking their map become this grand, compelling saga? Well, the answer is the AI storyteller. This right here, this is the aha moment. The player says something totally mundane, just thinking out loud. I glance to the right. I'm not keeping an eye on the minimap. And then the AI takes that simple action and transforms it into this, as you lead your squad through the perilous expanse of the capital wasteland. It's literally turning basic gameplay into an epic novel, and it's doing it in real time. So let's bring it all together. What do you get when you combine a custom character, self-made missions, a hand-picked cast, and this AI narrator? Well, you get something that is so much more than a playthrough. It is a genuine act of creative authorship. I mean, just look at the player's long-term goals for Arren Sawyer. This reads like the outline for a book series. He's not trying to get a high score or just finish quests. He wants to expand his influence, build alliances, create infrastructure. He wants to literally reshape the entire capital wasteland to fit his vision. This is pure world building. And maybe the AI narrator itself says it best. You are not here to watch someone survive Fallout 3. You are here to watch someone inhabit it. That's the key. The player isn't just a visitor passing through this world. Through all these creative choices, he becomes a resident and a force that shapes its destiny. It all leaves us with a really fascinating question, especially for the future of entertainment. In these huge interactive worlds where the game mechanics give us so much freedom, what does it even mean to be a storyteller anymore? At what point do you stop playing a game and start writing your own story?
You know, some people play video games just to follow the story, right? But then there are the players who decide to write their own story. And today, oh man, we are diving into the legend of one player who did just that. He didn't just play Fallout 3, he bent its world completely to his will, forging his own epic of conquest right out of the ashes of the capital wasteland. I mean, listen to that. That's not just a character description, it's basically the opening line of a myth, right? This is exactly how the player behind Arren Sawyer sees his creation, and it totally sets the stage for a story that, let me tell you, is way less about just surviving and a whole lot more about absolute domination. So let's really break this down. This is the story of Arren Sawyer, a character who is built with this one single ruthless purpose. His goal, to build a kingdom in a world that wants him dead, and in the process, become the undisputed ruler of the wasteland. No small feat.
All right, Section 1, A Wasteland Warlord Rises. So who exactly is this aspiring conqueror? I mean, to really get the legend, you've got to understand the man himself. Let's take a look at the character build that kicked this whole thing off.
So you can see he's the leader of this tough survivor squad, rocking that iconic regulator duster and sheriff's hat. He's got the Lincoln repeater, which is awesome, and look at his skills. Small guns, sneak, repair. Pretty standard, right? But it's this specific combination of traits that really sets him apart. High perception and agility, that makes him a master of navigating the wastes. Sneak and small guns make him a deadly threat for sure. But the exceptional luck? See, that's the secret ingredient. That's the one stat that takes a guy who's just a capable survivor and turns him into a wasteland legend.
Next up, the philosophy of power. Because, building a character is one thing, but what really drives them? For Arren Sawyer, it is not just about getting to the end credits. No way. It's this deep, multi-layered philosophy that's built on 3 core pillars.
Okay, so first and foremost, there is power. And for this player, I mean every action, every alliance, every single bullet fired is all in service of this one goal. Power isn't just a tool for buying better gear or getting past a tough enemy. No, for Arren, power is the entire point of the game. It is the end game. But, of course, you can't accumulate power if you're dead. Simple as that. That's why survival is the foundation for everything else. This isn't some reckless ambition, it's a cold, calculated pragmatism. Every single decision is weighed against the risk, which makes his hunt for power just brutally efficient.
And finally, ambition. This is the real endgame. Just surviving? That's for lesser wanderers. Sawyer's ambition is to build a dynasty, to forge a kingdom so powerful that his name will echo through the wasteland for generations to come. It's all about leaving an indelible mark on the world.
Section 3. Forging the ultimate squad. A warlord is nothing without an army, right? And the main weapon Arren Sawyer used to carve out his kingdom, well, it wasn't a gun. It was a hand-picked, meticulously optimized squad of warriors.
Just take a look at this lineup. Seriously, this is not just a random collection of companions, it's a perfectly balanced fighting force. You've got heavy firepower with Sticky and his minigun, you've got close quarters devastation from Shorty, long-range precision from both Red and Jericho, and of course you have the unbreakable loyalty of Dog Meat the Tank. Every single role is filled. It's beautiful.
But here's where the real genius comes in. It's all about the tactics. The player actually organized his human companions into 2 deadly sniper-spotter teams. Think about that. This gave them incredible battlefield control. You've got one pair laying down suppressive fire, while the other one is just picking off targets with surgical precision. I mean, that is a level of strategy you just don't see very often.
And within this squad, one member was basically elevated to mythic status: Jericho. In the player's own story, Jericho isn't just a skilled marksman. He's this warrior whose luck is so legendary it feels like it can bend reality itself. But how do you actually create luck in a video game?
Well, here's where the deep role-playing crashes right into the game mechanics. It's so smart. The player methodically stacked gear on Jericho. We're talking the Lucky Shades, 3 Dogs head wrap, all to boost his base luck stat up to a formidable 8. And what does that do? It dramatically increases his critical hit chance, which makes his special victory rifle knock enemies down way more often. So you see, he didn't just find a legend, he literally built one from the ground up. Okay, next section. Building a wasteland kingdom. So, with his philosophy defined and his army forged, Arren Sawyer was ready for his final act. Building a settlement. The future capital of his kingdom. But founding a city in the wasteland, well, it comes with a pretty unique set of problems. Which brings us to the big question. How do you convince people to live in a minefield? Because that's exactly where he chose for his base of operations, the town of Minefield.
I mean, it's a strategically defensible spot, sure, but it is not exactly prime real estate. So he had to get creative with his recruitment strategy, using one of the game's most peculiar tools.
So get this. He used the mesmetron, a tool that's meant for enslavement, in a completely new way. He'd find non-combative NPCs out in the wasteland, zap them with the mesmetron to make them hostile, and then he'd just have them chase him all the way across the map back home to Minefield. It's insane. For the really stubborn ones, he temporarily enslaved them just to get them there and then set them free. It is an unconventional, super glitchy, but believe it or not, an incredibly effective way to populate a city from scratch.
All right, our final section, a player's epic legacy. So, what does this all add up to? We've got a powerful character, a masterfully crafted squad, and a whole kingdom built with pure cunning and a healthy dose of glitches. But this is so much more than just a clever way to play a game.
What we're looking at here is a player who became an author. They wrote their very own saga right inside the game's framework. They created their own lore, they developed these deep strategies, and they used every single tool, and yes, every exploit, at their disposal to bring their incredible vision to life.
And really, that was the goal all along. It was never just about survival. It was about becoming champions. It was about building a legend so compelling that it feels like it could have actually been part of the Wasteland's history. And you know what? In this playthrough, they absolutely 100% succeeded.
And all of this, it leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? In these massive open worlds, we're all given the tools to be authors. The story doesn't have to end when the final mission does. So the only real question left to ask is, what kind of legend will you write? All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're going to look at a fascinating gaming experiment that kind of flips the script on how we think about storytelling in these huge digital worlds. We'll see how one player, with a little help from an AI, turned a game we all know and love into his own personal epic. So let me ask you this. When you boot up a massive open-world game, are you there just to beat it? Or are you there to really live in it? This whole explainer is about that second option. What happens when you shift your mindset from being a player to being a storyteller, a director of your very own saga? Okay, here's the game plan. First, we'll break down this whole new way of playing. Then we'll meet the director himself, Arren Sawyer, and his AI co-pilot. We'll get to know his squad, follow them on a mission, and then we'll wrap it all up by thinking about what this could mean for the future of how we play.
So what's the big idea here? Well, it's really about the difference between, just blasting through quests and actually building a real, continuous story for your character. It's where every single thing you do adds another page to the book.
And this line from the AI narrator just says it all, doesn't it? A march isn't fast. It's deliberate. It has purpose, and it has weight. It's not about how quickly you can get to the end. It's about owning the journey every step of the way. So at the very center of this whole thing is a character named Arren Sawyer. And you gotta understand, he's not just some avatar. He is a full-blown protagonist with this incredibly detailed persona, all shaped by the player's decisions and then brought to roaring life by his AI storyteller. And this chart really lays it out. See, most of us, we're focused on finishing quests, getting better stats, grabbing all the loot. But our Wasteland director, he's playing a totally different game. His goals are creating continuity, developing this persona, and weaving a narrative. It all builds towards something the AI calls outcome-based success. And we'll get to what that means in a bit.
And just listen to the result. Wow. This is not some character who just, blew up a town for a few caps. This is an epic villain, a master of chaos with this grand, twisted vision. And that persona, it's co-created. It's born from the player's actions meeting the AI's absolutely epic narration.
Okay, so how in the world does this actually work? How do you take a bunch of gameplay moments and string them together into a compelling story? Well, it all comes down to this amazing creative partnership between the player and an AI tool he nicknamed Charlie. The process itself is surprisingly simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's a 4-step loop. Step 1, the player does something in the game. Step 2, they hit pause. Step 3, they turn to the AI and give it a prompt, asking it to create a monologue from Arren Sawyer's point of view. And Step 4, the AI delivers, turning a simple in-game action into a legendary story beat.
Here's the perfect example. You can just picture it, right? In the middle of some chaotic battle, the player makes a mistake, gets a little distracted, and just throws out a casual comment. We've all been there.
But then, bam,
The AI takes that simple oops and transforms it into this incredible declaration from a wasteland warlord. The AI isn't just describing what happened, it's interpreting it. It's injecting this massive dose of emotion and narrative weight that just wasn't there a second ago.
Now, a director is nothing without their cast, right? Arren Sawyer doesn't roll solo, and his companions are so much more than just extra guns. They're a true ensemble cast, a living structure, where every single member has a specific and vital part to play in this story.
And just look at this lineup. It's like a well-oiled machine. You've got Shorty for up-close and personal firepower, Red is the eye in the sky with their sniper rifle, Sticky brings the big guns, even Dogmeat has a critical role as the tank, the one constant that never ever breaks formation. This isn't just a party of followers, it's a squad, and it turns every single fight into a coordinated, story-driven spectacle. All right, let's see how this all comes together. The director, the AI storyteller, the squad. We're going to follow them on what for most of us is a pretty simple task. Go find and recruit Dogmeat. For a typical player, it's a quick trip. For Arren Sawyer, it's an epic march.
So the journey itself is paced so deliberately. After a big fight, the player doesn't just run around scooping up loot. No, he pauses, he reflects, and he makes a point to free a captive. That action doesn't give him a bunch of XP, it serves the story. And get this, the player calls this dangerous journey a stroll because he's played the game for so long he knows exactly where every ambush is. That real-world knowledge becomes part of the character. Arren Sawyer isn't scared, he's in total command.
And this all brings us back to that core philosophy, outcome-based success. So what is it? It's a total shift in how you define a win. It's not about your personal kill count or how much XP you got. Success is simply about the outcome. Are the enemies gone? Is the path clear? Is the squad still standing? Does the story get to continue? If the answer is yes, then the unit succeeded. That's the only victory that matters.
You know, when you step back, what we're looking at here is way bigger than just one person's playthrough. This whole experiment is really pushing the boundaries of what it even means to play a game. It's pointing toward a future where we aren't just consumers of stories, we're active co-authors, using these incredible new tools to forge our own unique epics.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? Well, first, it shows that as players, our choices can be about more than just which dialogue option to pick. We can actually create the narrative. Second, it's clear that AI can be this amazing creative partner for telling spontaneous, personal stories. And finally, when you shift your focus from just winning to truly inhabiting a world, you can build a much deeper, more powerful connection to it. Now, this is just one player's incredible experiment, but it leaves us all with a pretty huge question to chew on. As technology like this keeps evolving, our role as storytellers inside these digital worlds is going to change in ways we can barely imagine. It really makes you wonder, what kind of epics are we going to direct next?
All right, today we are diving into a story that comes straight out of the irradiated ruins of the Fallout universe. And this saga is so epic, you'd swear it was written by the game's own storytellers. But the truth? Oh, the truth is much, much stranger. Let's get right into it.
So, meet Arren Sawyer. The way he's described makes him sound like this larger-than-life figure, a true leader forging a new path for humanity from the ashes. He sounds like the perfect wasteland hero, you know? Complex, courageous, a man with a real vision.
I mean, that voice describing him, it's so grand, almost literary. It feels like some all-knowing narrator that's just baked into the game itself. But that's not what's going on here at all. So the big question is, who is this eloquent storyteller?
Okay, so first, let's get a better feel for the character we're seeing. This is Arren Sawyer, the myth, and he's not presented as some simple hero. No, he's a figure of immense power and ambition, someone shaping the world through sheer force of will.
Yeah, this is definitely not your typical good guy playthrough. Arren Sawyer is painted as deeply, deeply morally gray. He's a conqueror who truly believes that order, his order, is the only way forward. He's both a builder and, well, a destroyer.
And this quote just perfectly captures his whole mindset, doesn't it? These are not the words of some scavenger just trying to survive. This is the voice of a would-be emperor, someone with a grand and frankly pretty terrifying vision for the future. But again, where are these words actually coming from?
Okay, it is time to pull back the curtain, because the grand architect of this new world order, he's just a guy playing a video game. And, you know, his actual moment-to-moment experience sounds a little different from the epic saga we've been hearing.
And here we go. This slide,
Right here is the key to the whole story. On the left, you've got the player, Dylan Thompson, casually admitting he wasn't even paying attention during a firefight. On the right, you have the epic literary narrator describing that exact same moment. The contrast is just wild. So what on earth is going on?
So here's the big reveal. The story of Arren Sawyer isn't pre-scripted by the game devs. It's an emergent narrative. It's a whole layer of fiction being created on the fly on top of the raw gameplay by the player and a very unusual collaborator.
And this collaborator, it's the ghost in the machine. It's that voice we've been hearing. It's not another person. It's not a developer. It's an AI that the player is in a constant dialogue with.
The player calls his AI partner Charlie, or sometimes Theodora, and its job is pretty simple but amazing. It acts as a personal bard. It takes all the chaotic or mundane or sometimes just plain silly moments of gameplay and weaves them into this grand, first-person narrative for the character of Arren Sawyer.
And the whole creative process is surprisingly straightforward. The player does something in the game, he gives the AI a command, sometimes it's literally just gibberish, and boom, the AI instantly spits out this piece of epic prose from the perspective of their shared character. And I'm not kidding about the gibberish part. Just look at this actual prompt given to the AI. Margle Bargle, Mergly Burglius. This is what the player is feeding into the system. You'd expect the output to be equally nonsensical, right?
Wrong. This is what comes out. From Margle Bargle to a profound declaration about a hunger for power and dominance. The AI isn't just translating, it's elevating. It's transforming the player's most casual, silly input into the character's deepest motivations. It's a really incredible creative loop.
So now that we get the process, let's look at what they've actually made. What kind of world have this player and his AI bard actually built together? Well, Arren Sawyer is, to put it lightly, a villain. The player chose to nuke the town of Megaton, and the AI narrator framed it as the decisive act of a powerful ruler. Every looted corpse isn't just a player grabbing gear, it's a confirmation of Arren's ruthless pragmatism.
And he's not working alone. His companions aren't just random NPCs anymore. The AI gives them titles and personalities. They are Arren Sawyer's formidable squad. Shorty is now a ruthless warrior. Red is a cunning sniper, and Sticky's the heavy hitter. They're not just game assets anymore. They're actual characters in this unfolding novel.
And what's really fascinating is the sheer depth the AI can bring to the table. At one point, the player finds a copy of the book Paradise Lost in the game. The AI then grabs onto this and uses it as a thematic anchor, drawing all these parallels between the game's world and Milton's epic poem. You know, themes of temptation, power, the struggle between good and evil. This isn't just narration. It's basically real-time literary analysis.
So what does this all really mean? This crazy partnership between a human player and a creative AI isn't just some quirky little project. It really points towards a fundamental shift in how we can interact with and even create stories inside of these digital worlds. Think about it. The player is no longer just experiencing a story made by someone else. He's actively directing it. He provides the action, the raw material, and the AI acts as his scribe, his personal bard, turning all that raw material into a coherent, stylized narrative. The line between being a player and being an author just completely dissolves.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. We're so used to thinking of games as these interactive experiences or platforms for stories that have already been written, but this experiment suggests something totally new. Is it a dynamic storytelling engine, a collaborative literary world, or is it something else that we don't even have a name for yet? It's a fascinating question about the future of how we play.
All right, today we're diving deep into the Capital Wasteland, but this is not your typical Fallout quest. Nope, we are about to watch how one simple delivery mission completely snowballs into a ruthless, full-blown campaign for total domination. This is the story of how a player decided, you know what, I'm going to be a wasteland warlord. And this quote just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? I mean, on the surface, the goal sounds so simple. Go get a letter. But as we're about to see, that little quest is just a cover for something way, way more ambitious. This is a story that comes not from the game script, but from the player's own twisted choices.
Every huge story has to start somewhere, right? And for this one, it all kicks off with a very long, very encumbered walk across a radioactive wasteland. Just a simple little pilgrimage from point A to point B. So the official mission seems pretty straightforward. You're supposed to get a personal letter for your companion, Sydney, and sure, there are some side hustles like finding a unique rifle for another guy, Jericho.
But this simple checklist, it's really just the canvas for a much, much darker masterpiece. And here is where the whole narrative just takes a massive turn. This isn't about helping a friend. No way. This whole journey is just a pretext, a convenient excuse to move an entire army across the map and kick a much grander, more sinister plan into high gear. To really get the plan, you have to understand the man at the heart of it all, Arren Sawyer. And look, this isn't just some player character. This is a whole persona, co-created with a chatbot, all to bring this very specific, ruthless ideology to life in the wasteland. This quote just lays it all bare. Forget the letter. Sawyer's real quest is for power, pure, unadulterated dominance over the entire unforgiving world of Fallout 3. This is the engine driving every single decision on this journey. You know, what's so fascinating here is the clash between the player's casual comments and Sawyer's super grim in-character narration. On one hand, you've got the player dealing with game mechanics, I'm just going to teleport to fix a bug. But on the other, you get this epic monologue about a relentless pursuit of dominance. It's this beautiful and honestly pretty funny side of role-playing. So what is the Sawyer Doctrine exactly? Well, first off, strength and smarts are the only things that actually matter. Morality, that's just an obstacle. I mean, the source material points out that the city of Megaton was destroyed without hesitation. Every opportunity, from looting bodies to swindling traders, is just another tool in the toolbox. And maybe most importantly, Sawyer is patient. He knows building an empire doesn't happen overnight. Of course, a warlord is nothing without an army. And Sawyer's squad, well, they're not really friends or companions in the usual sense. They are assets, each one handpicked and geared up for one single purpose: conquest. Okay, let's take a look at the lineup. You notice a theme here: power armor on almost everybody. Sawyer is not messing around. Each person has a specific job, from Jericho the sharpshooter to Sydney on ranged support. And even Dogmeat isn't just a good boy. He's described as a fearless protector, the untamed spirit of the wasteland. This is a fighting force, plain and simple. So, you've got the ambition, you've got the army, but how do you actually bend the world to your will? Especially when it comes to recruiting new followers for your growing empire. Well, you need the right tools. And Sawyer has let's just say, a very unconventional one. Everybody meet the Mesmetron. The source material calls it a device of both frustration and necessity, and that's perfect. It's this strange, non-lethal weapon that can mess with people's heads. And for Sawyer, it's not some gimmick. It is the key to building his settlements and growing his power base. But here's the crucial part. It's pure chaos. Using the Mesmetron is a total gamble. You've got a 40% chance it just stuns your target, which is great. You can talk to them. But there's another 40% chance it sends them into a violent frenzy, and there's a 20% chance their head just explodes. This wild element of risk is actually central to Sawyer's entire recruitment strategy. So how does he use this chaos? With this absolutely clever technique the player calls catch and release. The goal is to actually trigger that frenzy effect, making someone hostile. Then Sawyer just leads them on a wild goose chase all the way back to his base. For really tough characters, he'll even enslave them, drag them home, and then set them free. It's a brilliant, if, morally bankrupt way to manipulate the game's mechanics and get new settlers. But this isn't just about grabbing a few followers here and there. That whole catch and release thing is just one tiny piece of a much, much larger vision. Sawyer isn't just trying to survive. He is actively trying to build a whole new order in the capital wasteland, one forged in his own image. See, this isn't random violence. It's a comprehensive strategy. The goals are crystal clear. Expand your influence, grab resources, build alliances, develop infrastructure. This is the methodical mind of a true warlord, with these huge long-term ambitions to completely remake the world around him. And this final quote from Sawyer's persona, it just sums it all up. It speaks to this relentless, never-ending ambition. The quest for that letter is a distant memory. All that's left is the drive to conquer, to build, and to make a permanent mark on this world, no matter what it costs. Ultimately, the story of Arren Sawyer is just this powerful example of how stories can emerge in video games. It takes a simple starting point and transforms it into this epic of ambition and control. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. In these digital worlds where we can be anyone, how much of that character is the game, and how much is just a reflection of the player pulling the strings?